Hey, Anderson Cowan here, talking today about Spider-Man No Way Home. You know that because it's in the title, so that was redundant. Apologies. I talk about movies on a regular basis on the Film Vault, as well as CinemAddicts, as well as here, obviously, because that's what I'm doing now. I'm just some guy that talks about other people's movies. I also make my own movies, and I'm a father. What am I, on a job interview? Okay, so today, I also like to congratulate myself on a second week of thus far avoiding West Side Story, which from all accounts is marvelous. But I hope to not find that out for some time. I'm just not. I don't have the wherewithal right now to sit through West Side Story anytime soon. What I did do though is go and see this new Spider-Man movie with a lot of Spider-Man enthusiasts. Last night at the theater. It comes out today as I record this, and they do that Thursday night late night thing, and I don't understand the clapping. We'll talk about that in a bit. All right, gonna be a little tough to talk about this one without giving anything away, and I'm not going to give anything away because I know a lot of you. Hey, that's a weird thing too, though, because how many people haven't seen it yet that are watching this that are super pumped, right? But then on the other hand. So I'm gonna go about this as though I'm talking to myself from a couple weeks ago. I think that might be the best way about it. So let's get to the nitty gritty. What works? What doesn't work? What's also just I'm gonna look at it as a movie, not as though I am a Marvel. Marvel movies are always tough, and this is I think the 754th one that came out this year. So there's a lot of them, and I got to talk about them because they're movies. And if a lot of people would suggest that if they didn't exist, movie theaters would be a thing of the past. My argument is if they didn't exist, more Fast and Furious movies would probably exist, and movies like those. What am I doing? Okay, so here's the thing. Peter Parker. It has been revealed, as we know, because Jake Gyllenhaal told everybody about it in the last one, right? So now everyone knows who Spider-Man is, which is cool. I love that plot device. I love the idea of a superhero finally getting his recognition, and it's what I think a lot of us are rooting for with all the superheroes when we watch these movies. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool though? Like if those people, especially with Spider-Man, because he's like the youngest of the bunch, and he doesn't get much respect from his boss or from the girls at times, unless their name's MJ. So. Like that's cool. But it starts us off with that carryover from the last movie. And then ultimately he, as we know from the trailer, he and Doctor Strange get together because it's kind of messing everything up for him, and he can't get into college. When his friends can't get into college, Zendaya can't get into college either because she's associated with him, even though his douchey friend, who's not really his friend, who just tries to capitalize because he's a climber, has already written a book. Saying, hey, I'm Spider-Man's best friend. He gets into college. So that, there's some breakdowns here. There's some issues that I have throughout the 2.5-hour movie that, as far as I can tell, has 3 action sequences. He goes to talk to the woman who's in charge of admitting people at MIT, who conveniently happens to be in town, and he meets her up on the Alexander Hamilton Bridge over there in New York, and that's when all hell breaks loose. Oh, I skipped a part. So he goes to Doctor Strange. He's like, hey, Doctor Strange, can we do some kind of universe-altering spell so that I can get into college? And Doctor Strange is like, I don't think I should. He's like, maybe I will. And then they don't talk about it at all. They don't figure out the plan or exactly the logistics of it. Like if I'm going to pick up milk and eggs at the market, I'll talk to my wife, probably at least 30 seconds worth of conversation talking about what else might be needed, either at the market or other places surrounding the market or on my way home, like on the route, right? Doctor Strange and Tom Holland, Peter Parker, they didn't discuss like the parameters and the ins and the outs and like the do's and the don'ts of this universe altering spell, to which once the spell, and this is on the trailer, starts getting concocted, there's some amendments that Peter Parker's making, much to the dismay of Doctor Strange over there, because he can be a grumpy Englishman at times, and next thing you know, like the spell's kind of broken, and that's how these other guys come in, as you know from the trailer. I know you don't know all of them. I'm not going to tell you all of them, but there's 5 of them, and they come up into our universe. And now Peter Parker takes it upon himself, Spider-Man, to try and undo the chaos that he has caused because he's a kid, and he's like, no, but the spell was going to, we all know this, the spell was going to make it so that nobody knew he was Spider-Man. And then he's like, well, what about my girlfriend? It's kind of cool that she knows that I'm Spider-Man, and that works for me in my personal life. So it gets broken, and the multiverse comes in. Now Marvel's been very impressive in many ways, obviously, but I think maybe the most impressive thing that they do is they talk to their audience as though their audience are into science and have a brain between their ears and can figure things out and understand things, and they don't play catch up. Marvel doesn't wait for the slowest of the group to understand what's happening. That's what other movies about cars and that are fast and very angry and furious are, I think, for. But I'm such a dick. But no difference here with the string theory and the multiverse and all that. But also, if we were to stop and think about it, they're trying to keep this train going. They're trying to keep the Marvel tent poles going, and they're succeeding. And them bringing the multiverse into it, even though I'm sure it's got lineage and there's an origin from the books and the magazines, comic books, and all that stuff. I'm sure that it existed before, but in the Marvel movie universe, to be able to open up other universes of their same, because that's what they're doing all the time, like rebooting, but it's like they're just saying, oh, well, it's a different universe, and they're giving themselves license to just essentially print money with like, hey, now we can have this version of that, but it's this version, and we can open this and bring that over here, and also not having anyone know that he's Spider-Man, or maybe not even like know that he's Peter Parker. To be able to do that, that's not a mistake that they stumbled across, I don't think. I would imagine that they were like, this has been such a good run. Can you imagine if we got to introduce everyone to Spider-Man for the first time again? And I bet that the powers that be are kind of obsessed with that idea. And if the powers that be, being Sony, Marvel, Disney, I guess, to an extent, had the ability to push like a little Men in Black button and just wipe out the memories of certain characters or entire franchises, of the entire populace of the world, would they do it? Oh, without a doubt. They would, even if it meant like, erasing part of our childhood, they would do that if it meant that we would stumble up to the box office. Not that we have box offices that we stumble up to anymore, because we would stumble onto our phones and buy tickets to this new creation called Spider-Man that we've never heard of. So it's kind of funny that that's what it's all kind of surrounding and about, and the ins and the outs of this movie are about their wet dream, their fantasy, which is to be able to reintroduce. Even though I get that the brand and the recognition goes a long way, and I know that because sitting in the theater last night, when Dr. Octopus first arrives, the cheers, the clapping, and I'm not kidding, not joking, I heard moans, like they sounded inappropriate, like a couple times throughout the movie. I heard there was a particular female few rows behind me who would go, oh! She was so excited that she would make inappropriate sounds. Anyhow, ultimately this movie is 2.5 hours long, and I don't like it as much as the first two, which is a little bit, it's doing really creative, inventive, fun things. That would be much more creative and inventive and fun if I had not already experienced an animated film called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 4 or 5 times, and that movie is phenomenal and amazing, and I had never seen anything like that as far as from the Marvel Universe. And this one does a lot of the same, but not as fun, I guess. And I mean, look, people are going to like this movie. I don't think it's as good as the first John Watts Spider-Man. I don't think it's as good as the second John Watts Spider-Man, and I don't think it's as fun or as good as John Watts' Cop Car with Kevin Bacon, which I absolutely loved. So honestly, if I could just watch Cop Car and then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I think that I'd have a much more entertaining afternoon than watching Spider-Man 3. That's not to say it's not good. It's good. But it's not. My socks are still on. I walked out of the theater with the socks and shoes were both on. They weren't blowing off my feet. But enjoy your 2.5. There's a lot of drama, a lot of crying characters, and you know what else is kind of upsetting is this movie has that thing that happens, and I see it in Marvel movies, where it's the lead characters, the Spider-Man, his girlfriend, MJ, and his other sidekick friend, to a lesser extent, are doing things that, like, they're making choices and actively doing things that I disagree with, and I'm like, well, that's not the way that things should go, and that's really going to actually cause more harm than good, and how do you not see that? And I understand that it's all about, you know, being altruistic and doing the best thing that you can by your fellow human and trying the impossible, but when the impossible has like a 1 in 1,000 shot, and the alternative, if it doesn't turn out your way, is going to be mass chaos for everyone, don't do that. Listen to your elders, I guess I'm saying. And it happens a couple times, and then later in the movie, Doctor Strange, his motivation to hesitate when there's a fix, but he hesitates because of something kind of minor in the grand scheme of things. I had some big problems swallowing those things, and it's almost as though, look, I got a 5-year-old who tells me that he knows what's up, and he doesn't, right? He tells me how things work when he's the kind of kid, like, he gets in a car, first time ever in the car, a new car, and he'll tell you he could drive it. He thinks he could. I bet my 5-year-old thinks he could drive stick shift, and that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from some of the kids. God, I sound like an old man, but you know what I'm saying. When I don't know if you want to be sitting in an audience watching a movie and going like, okay, that's the protagonist, but I'm totally against what the protagonist is doing, and then ultimately being kind of proved right for having that feeling. All right. Anyhow, Spider-Man: Far From Home. Watch Cop Car. It's so good. It's John Watts, one of his earlier movies, and it's Kevin Bacon. It's about these two kids that stumble across an abandoned cop car. It ultimately belongs to Kevin Bacon's character, and oh my God, it's so much fun! I mean, there's not like massive set pieces and action sequences, but there's a lot to be had there. Hey, happy Friday, everybody. I'll talk to you. We got so many crazy big movies coming out over the next couple weeks. I'll be updating this thing as we go. All right, thanks for watching. 3.5 stars for Spidey. 3.